Hello and welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about magic systems. I'll be going over the differences between hard and soft magic systems, giving some tips on how to write them, books where I think magic systems have been done well and books where I think they haven't been done well, and overall just a little bit of a discussion about it. I'll also be intertwining throughout the video how I have created the magic systems in my books and how I'm going to improve upon them further when the books go from Wattpad draft to fully published. But before I begin, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, it really helps me out. Now, if you see me looking off to the side throughout the video, it's because I have this here, and that is a very full kind of script about everything I want to say today. I'm still not very good at just saying my thoughts to the camera, so I have to have a look at this every now and then just to remind my brain of what I want to talk about. So I will be looking off to the side every now and then, but I am improving and I am getting better at looking at just the camera for most of the video. So a small disclaimer, what I'm going to talk about today is going to be coming from a mixture of my own experiences as I've been writing and figuring this out, my own preferences, and also a little bit of research. Only a few articles that have kind of told me things I already know but have helped me better put into words what I know. So those articles I will leave links for in the description below. My advice that I'm going to give may work for some and it may not work for others. A lot of writing and reading, well, all of writing and reading is very subjective, and I'm not saying that I'm an expert on this subject in any means. Like I said at the beginning of this disclaimer, this is all coming from my own kind of preferences and experiences from writing and reading for the last decade. On that note, let's begin. What is the difference between a hard and a soft magic system? Well, if I were to summarise it in one sentence, it would be a hard magic system has rules and a soft magic system is just more flexible. Going into detail, a hard magic system, like I said, has rules, and the rules are often strict, they can't really be broken, and the magic has clear limitations. It has strengths, it has weaknesses. The reader knows all of the rules throughout, or they learn all the rules throughout the story. A great example of a hard magic system would be Allomancy in Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn books. I'm going to be mentioning Sanderson a few times in this video, especially as the terms hard and soft magic system were popularised by him, so you can't really talk about magic systems without mentioning Brandon Sanderson. So going back to the rules and the limitations and everything just being wrapped up quite tightly, that is how I would describe a hard magic system. Now, a soft magic system is, I would say, a little bit more mysterious. It doesn't have strict rules, it can be undefined. The reader doesn't need to know the rules or how it fully works or the mechanics of it, they just basically get to see it be used. Rules can be broken because there were no established rules in the first place, and an example of a story that has a soft magic system would be Lord of the Rings. We don't have to understand why Gandalf comes back to life. He comes back to life because he's a wizard, and that's just what they do, and there's no strict rules or a whole system in place that explains to the reader why that happens. It just happens because magic. So out of the two very broad definitions, I would say, of hard and soft magic systems, which ones do you prefer? Personally, I do like both, but when it comes to writing and creating, I really enjoy creating hard magic systems. I just find it so much fun to plan every little bit out and think up all these new and interesting ways that magic can be used. But yeah, leave me a comment below. Which one do you prefer reading? Which one do you prefer writing? I'd be really interested to know. So now I'm going to go over some of the pros and some of the cons of each of the systems. Starting with a hard magic system. In a magic system where you're creating strict rules, it can make for tighter world building. It can lessen the chances of plot holes or errors because all the rules and the limitations have been put into place and established and laid out for the reader. It can create more satisfying moments where epic magic usage feels earned because, again, like I've already said, it's an established part of the story. The reader fully understands how it works and it just makes complete sense. Instead of magic just being used as a crutch to get a character out of a hard place or a tight spot with no explanation or reason, it just feels like it all gets wrapped up nice and tightly. You're less likely to get those scenes where magic just saves the day out of nowhere with no explanation and no build-up. It just feels more connected, intertwined, and it makes sense to the world, and you don't get those Deus Ex Machina moments as much. When I think about epic magic moments that feel well earned and that fall into place so effortlessly, I always go back to another Sanderson book, and that is Warbreaker. After spending the story learning about the magic, the way the ending ties up is just such a satisfying way, because you have spent all this time learning about how the magic works, and then you see it be used in a way that makes just complete sense, but is also like really exciting to read and that you didn't quite predict. So just because a hard magic system has loads of rules and limitations and everything like that, it doesn't mean you can still have a story that the magic system is predictable or boring in. You can still have some mystery surrounding your hard magic system. It's just that the way it's used and defined is laid out clearly for the reader with a set of rules and limitations. But what is a downside to a hard magic system? And it can be boring. Too much exposition, too many walls or paragraphs of just explaining how it works instead of letting magic just be magic. For some readers, all the rules just takes the magic out of the magic, and it just doesn't become enjoyable for them. Some people don't need rules or limitations to suspend their disbelief, I guess, and just enjoy that the magic works mysteriously. A soft magic system allows for more freedom. It opens up the range of possibilities and questions and theories that the reader can enjoy delving into. The mystery behind the magic and how it works means it's more mysterious and can be, or can feel to some readers, more magical. However, it can open up the story to plot holes. There is often the temptation with soft magic to use magic as an excuse to fix everything. This Deus Ex Machina, which is like a plot device where a seemingly unsolvable problem is suddenly resolved by an unexpected and unlikely occurrence, can leave readers unsatisfied. Such feelings are often followed up by, well, why didn't they do that in the first place? And when not tackled or planned correctly, soft magic systems can lead to moments like this, where the character is in a tricky spot and then suddenly this magic comes out of nowhere, saves the day, but then when you think back to the beginning of the book when they were in, or the whole setup of the book, it makes the reader wonder, well, if they can use the magic in this way now, why didn't they do it this way and just stop all of this before it began? Both systems are great. I love both hard and soft magic systems. I know in my personal writing, I do lean towards hard magic systems, but I'm definitely not opposed to soft magic systems either. And what's even better, there aren't strict guidelines on how to write and create a system. You can have elements of both systems in your magic system. How many times am I going to say magic and system in this video? But that is the wonderful thing about creativity. Nothing, even though these are kind of defined, they don't have to be defined in your story. You can mix them up, you can have both rules and limitations, but also have elements of soft magic in there. It's just completely up to you, and that's just what's so wonderful about creativity and just writing in general. So what tips do I have when you are creating and writing a magic system? And just to reiterate, I am not an expert. This is just advice based on what I've enjoyed reading and writing over the, last decade, reading even more than a decade, and based on some of the research that I've done. So if you're planning to use a hard magic system in your story, you need to think about a few things. How will you introduce it to the reader? How will you show it being used? How will you explain the rules? You don't want to have endless paragraphs of exposition just telling the audience or the readers how it works. You need to show them how it works, as well as intertwining a bit of exposition here and there. But yeah, no big old paragraphs of just pure instructions telling the reader everything that happens in your magic system. You need to show them. And I know, show don't tell, that is something authors hear all the time. But you need to show the magic being used, show the magic's limits, and also add a little bit of mystery. Or you can have someone discovering a new unknown part of the magic. Just because it's a hard magic system, it doesn't mean that there can't be secrets and mystery surrounding it. And also, just because it is a hard magic system doesn't mean you have to limit your creativity. If you want to have a character who is just insanely powerful, then have it. Just make sure that the reader fully understands how the magic works and the way it does. When it comes to writing soft magic system, there still needs to be rules. The reader doesn't have to know the rules, but the author does. So to ensure that you don't open yourself up to any plot holes, you need to fully understand your magic system. You, the author, still need to know its strengths, its limitations. For both magic systems, I think my biggest tip is don't overthink it. Even in hard magic systems, there doesn't need to be a realistic, plausible reason for why a character can do whatever magic they can do. Let's look at controlling the weather, for example. The reader doesn't need to know what's happening in the sky to make lightning happen. And they don't need a thorough explanation as to why the character can make lightning anyway. A hard magic system doesn't mean that there needs to be a plausible, realistic explanation for every single magical detail. If a person is just born with the ability to have magic, then that can still be part of a hard magic system. So just enjoy the creation process. No idea is stupid. Have fun building and crafting your magical world. Magic systems is just one of the many joys of writing fantasy. And just because you haven't fully planned out your magic system, don't think you can't start writing your story until you have. In fact, I would recommend planning and writing alongside each other. Make your world come to life. Figure out how your magic works and lives in the world that you're creating. And that way, in your first draft, again, as you write and plan at the same time, you can see what's working, you can see what plot holes might open up with your magic system and fix them or amend the system. You can see where it does really work and where you may need to expand the magic to build upon a certain part of the world or build upon the plot. My story, The Skin Thief, which is a Wattpad draft, I call it a Wattpad draft because it is a first version, but people are reading it on Wattpad, so you can check it out if you want to. Just be prepared for it to read like a first draft. But I had a plan of what I wanted my magic system to be like, so I'm going to talk about dream walking, because I have a few different types of magic in the story, but the main one is dream walking, which is where someone's consciousness can leave their body and enter the body of another person and take over. And I did have some kind of, I would call it a hard magic system, because there are rules to it, but it hasn't been fully ironed out. And I have learned things about this magic in my story through writing it. And then when I come back to do the second draft for publication, or the third draft, however many it takes, I will be learning from the mistakes and the things that I learned writing the first draft with this magic to really and thoroughly tighten it up and make it as solid and as epic as I know it can be. Because there were instances where I realised that, well, if she can do this, why just doesn't she do that? And I think the readers have noticed that a little bit too. So that is something I definitely need to stop in the publishing version. But that's why I think it's so effective to write and plan at the same time, because you can plan all you want to the finest detail, but until you actually start writing and seeing how the structure and the story and the plot works, I don't think you can fully plan for every single detail of your magic system, because how it works on paper compared to incorporated into the story is very different. And you may be surprised by what sort of plot holes may open up as you start writing the story, and then that's when you go back and tighten. So let's look at real life examples of what magic systems work and which ones don't. Now, I've already mentioned Sanderson a few times in this video, so I'm not going to use him in any of these following examples. All of his books, or that I've read anyway, have just had fabulous magic systems. He is such a big inspiration of mine, and the way he writes it and the creativity behind them and the uniqueness of them is just so enjoyable to read. And yeah, he's a big inspiration of mine. But enough talking about Sanderson. You're probably sick of hearing his name by now, especially in the fantasy circle. So let's move on to some other magic systems that just blew me away. Rachel Gillig's Shepherd King duology, the magic in that was just amazing. I loved it so much. It felt so unique and exciting, and even though it was a hard magic system, it still felt so mysterious and fun to discover, and still had that mystery and magicalness behind it. It didn't fall into the trap of just basically being a load of set out rules. Seeing how the magic shaped the world and how it incorporated it into this just amazing gothic dark setting was so enjoyable, and for me it was just perfect. There were no moments where the magic was used to solve a problem out of nowhere. It was well thought out and well executed, and I just enjoyed every single moment of it. Other stories with great magic systems, I'm not going to go into all of them, these are just honourable mentions, are A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I thoroughly enjoyed that magic system too. And The Crimson Moth by Kristen Ciccarelli. That was really unique. I loved her take on witch magic and just the way blood was used. I found it so fun, if you can call reading about blood and stuff fun. Anyway, I found it just really exciting, really interesting. And again, when there was an epic magic moment at the end, it felt like it had been well built up and that it was earned. It didn't just come out of nowhere. But what magic systems haven't worked as well? And I'm about to say a book that I think a lot of people may disagree with me with, and a lot of people will also agree with me. That is Fourth Wing. Now, Fourth Wing is such a guilty pleasure of mine. When I read those books, I just switch everything off and I enjoy the ride. I love them so much. But I am definitely aware there are many, many, many flaws when it comes to those stories. Now, for a thorough deep dive into Fourth Wing and all the questions that its world building and magic system opens up, I would recommend Reads with Rachel. She does excellent videos, basically just asking all the questions and breaking down everything that's kind of wrong with the series. But I'm not going to go into full detail with that today. I'm just going to very broadly go over my issues with the magic system and why I think it doesn't work. Rebecca Yarros uses magic to kind of solve every problem. A great example of this is in the first chapter, where she wanted Violet to have a dragon scale breastplate, but dragon scales are too big, so she used magic to solve it in the sense of someone's signet is to make big things, or is to make sizes change or something like that. It just all felt very convenient. It's a bit of an odd signet power. What makes it kind of odd is that later on it's said that signets are based on who people really are at the core of their being. So what at the core of someone's being means that their power is to change the size of things. It just feels like she needed an explanation as to why Violet was able to have armour. It was like, yep, okay, I'll give someone this random power that can change sizes, and then later on the book to explain why Xaden had powers of shadows and why Violet could do lightning, she wanted to create this magic, or this signet is the core of someone's being. It's based on their true desires and who they are. And then if that's the question, why does some people have, how does breathing underwater make someone, or stem from who someone really is? Who does someone have to be for their ultimate magical ability to be not breathing underwater, holding their breath for ages underwater, or hearing a far distance away? It feels like that rule in her magic was only there to kind of justify why Xaden had shadow magic and why he could do the mind reading-y bits in book 2. And it didn't feel like it was a rule for everyone, but it's something that she wanted there, again, just to explain away and give reasoning behind Xaden and Violet's magic and their magic only. Not really taking the time to think about the grander picture of what this means for other characters. The kind of plot hole in the magic and her system is that mind readers are killed because they can't have them reading the mind of government officials and finding out all the secrets. But how does that work when dragons can read the minds of their riders and then project what other riders are thinking and seeing to other dragons, who can then project that into the mind of their riders? It's like, how does killing mind readers keep things secret when dragons can also read minds and psychically connect to each other, and then those dragons can psychically connect to their riders? So that was kind of a plot hole that doesn't quite work, I guess. I mean, I know plot holes don't work, but that whole line of thinking just makes no sense at all. And yes, dragons can project what, even as much as what other people have seen, because in book 1, when Violet gets attacked and she sees who the attacker is, Ten shows every rider in the quadrant through their dragons what Violet saw. So if that's allowed and dragons can do that, then what's the point of killing mind readers? And I'm not even going to start when it comes to lesser magic and the really random stuff it does. I don't fully understand it. And there are runes and relics and imbuing, which was all written very confusingly. I've gone through the book twice. I've read Iron Flame twice. Still don't fully understand all the magic. I just go along for the ride and shut off my brain and just enjoy the dragons, basically. But yeah, the magic system, it just, when you look at it deeper, it really just doesn't work. Phantasma was another magic system that didn't work for me. It started off strong, but it became a bit rushed towards the end. When Ophelia discovered her other powers, she practically knew how to use them perfectly almost instantly, and her magic just solved a lot of problems from then on and got rid of a lot of the tension. It wasn't just the magic that did that. The book overall never felt like it had high stakes. And I've already done a book review of Phantasma on my channel, so I won't go too deeply into it. But in the terms of talking about magic systems, it just didn't quite work. And I think it's because the overarching, or the whole book itself, just felt just felt rushed and focused more on the romance and the spice instead of the world building, the magic and the plot. Are there any magic systems that you either love so much or that you hate? Leave a comment below and let me know. I'll be really interested in having conversations about that with you. If you disagree when it comes to my thoughts about Fourth Wing and its magic and Phantasma, again, I'm more than happy to have a debate with you. And I hope you found this video interesting and helpful. I'll be aiming to delve into more writing advice type videos in the future, as well as video essays and other bookish topics that require a bit of research, because I kind of enjoyed writing the script and making this video, and yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. If there are any topics you want me to discuss in the future, again, leave a comment down below, and if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye!